Sitting Bull's life began on the wide-open plains of what is now South Dakota in 1831. Born among the Hunkpapa Lakota at a time when the buffalo were plentiful, the land was unbroken, and the Lakota people moved freely with the seasons under the big sky of the northern plains. As a boy, he was named Jumping Badger, but even early in his life he displayed a calm strength uncommon for someone so young. And after showing exceptional bravery during his first battle at age 14, his father honored him with a new name, Tatanka Iotek, or Sitting Bull, symbolizing an unshakable presence that no force could move. From the beginning, Sitting Bull embodied what the Lakota valued most: generosity, humility, moral courage, and loyalty to his people. And these qualities would shape him into one of the most respected leaders in Lakota history. He grew into adulthood during a transformative era, when increasing contact with American traders, settlers, and soldiers threatened the traditional ways of the Lakota. And Sitting Bull quickly emerged not only as a warrior, but as a spiritual leader whose visions guided both his people and his decisions. The Lakota world was rooted in a deep relationship with the earth, the buffalo, and the sacred circle of life. And Sitting Bull became a keeper of this worldview, insisting that the Lakota had the right to live, as they always had, without being pushed aside by a government that did not understand them. He earned his reputation as a fearless protector of the Lakota during conflicts with the Assiniboine, Crow, and other tribes. But it was his resistance to American expansion that ultimately defined his legacy and placed him at the center of one of the most famous chapters in American history. By the 1850s and 1860s, waves of settlers, miners, railroad surveyors, and soldiers pushed deeper into Lakota lands, violating treaty boundaries and disrupting buffalo migrations, sparking a series of escalating conflicts on the plains. Sitting Bull watched these changes with growing concern, believing that the United States government would continue to break treaties and push the Lakota onto reservations where their freedom, culture, and survival would be threatened. Unlike some Lakota leaders who believed negotiation could preserve peace, Sitting Bull believed that any agreement with the U.S. would be broken the moment it became inconvenient, a belief shaped by repeated betrayals that proved him right. As tensions rose, he emerged as the principal leader of the Lakota, who refused to sign treaties that surrendered lands or allowed American control. And this stance made him a symbol of resistance, admired by his people and feared by American authorities. In 1868, the Fort Laramie Treaty attempted to bring peace by guaranteeing the Lakota ownership of the Black Hills, a region sacred to their creation stories, and the surrounding lands of the Great Sioux Reservation. But Sitting Bull refused to sign even this treaty because he believed the United States would eventually violate it. His refusal would prove prophetic when gold was discovered in the Black Hills in 1874 by an expedition led by General George Armstrong Custer, igniting a rush of miners, prospectors, and speculators who flooded into Lakota territory despite the treaty's promises. The U.S. government, unable or unwilling to stop the invasion, chose instead to demand that all Lakota bands report to agencies, essentially forcing them onto reservations under military pressure. But Sitting Bull and many others refused, choosing to remain free in the northern plains. This defiance set the stage for what would become the Great Sioux War of 1876, a conflict in which Sitting Bull played a central spiritual and political role, while younger war leaders like Crazy Horse and Gall led military operations. That spring, Sitting Bull performed the Sundance, the most sacred Lakota ceremony, seeking a vision to guide his people, and during the ritual, he received an image of soldiers falling upside down into the Lakota camp like grasshoppers from the sky, a prophecy believed to foretell a great victory. The vision spread quickly among the camps, strengthening the resolve of the non-treaty Lakota and Northern Cheyenne, who had gathered along the Little Bighorn River in one of the largest native encampments ever seen on the plains. On June 25, 1876, when Custer and the 7th Cavalry attacked the village, The warriors responded with extraordinary speed, and the ensuing battle became one of the most famous in American history, known as the Battle of the Little Bighorn or Custer's Last Stand. Although Sitting Bull did not physically fight in the battle, his leadership, prophecy, and spiritual guidance played a central role in the unity and determination of the warriors who defeated Custer's men in a victory that shocked the United States. Yet this triumph brought devastating consequences, as the U.S. government intensified military campaigns, sent thousands of troops into the field, and pursued the Lakota relentlessly, determined to force them onto reservations permanently. Recognizing that continued resistance would bring starvation and suffering for his people, Sitting Bull made the difficult decision to lead his followers into Canada in 1877, hoping to find safety and freedom beyond American authority. In Canada, the Lakota survived by hunting buffalo and receiving limited support from the Northwest Mounted Police. But as the buffalo herds disappeared and food grew scarce, living in exile became increasingly difficult. After 4 years of hardship, many Lakota leaders asked Sitting Bull to return to the United States so their families could receive rations and assistance. And in 1881, he surrendered at Fort Buford, handing his rifle to his eldest son to symbolize that his people were choosing a path toward survival. Despite promises of fair treatment, Sitting Bull was treated as a prisoner of war, moved between military posts, and eventually sent to Standing Rock Reservation, where government agents tried to limit his influence, fearing he could inspire further resistance. In 1885, seeking to raise money for his family and community, Sitting Bull briefly joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, where he traveled across the country, shook hands with thousands of spectators, and observed firsthand the rapidly changing world that was overtaking the plains. He used his earnings to help Lakota children, distributed much of his income to the poor, and remained a symbol of dignity, even as crowds viewed him through a lens of myth and misunderstanding. Returning to Standing Rock, he continued to advocate for Lakota sovereignty and self-determination, arguing that his people should have the right to govern their lives without coercion or forced assimilation. By 1890, tensions once again rose on the reservations due to the suppression of Lakota traditions. Dwindling food supplies, broken promises, and the spread of the ghost dance religion, a spiritual movement that offered hope of renewal and the return of the buffalo. Although Sitting Bull was interested in understanding the ghost dance, there was no evidence that he intended to lead a rebellion, but reservation agents, fearful of his influence, falsely accused him of encouraging resistance, demanding that he be arrested. On December 15, 1890, Indian police surrounded his home at dawn, and during the attempted arrest, a struggle broke out that escalated into gunfire, killing Sitting Bull and several others, a tragedy that shocked both the Lakota and the nation. His death became a symbol of the deep injustice faced by Native peoples, and only 2 weeks later, the Wounded Knee Massacre occurred, marking one of the darkest chapters in American history and further underscoring the collapse of the traditional Lakota world. Yet Sitting Bull's legacy did not end with his death, because for the Lakota, he remains a figure of strength, resistance, cultural identity, and spiritual leadership whose voice still echoes through generations. His life symbolizes the struggle of indigenous people to protect their homelands, uphold their traditions, and survive policies designed to erase them. And his courage continues to inspire Native communities across North America. Today, Sitting Bull is remembered not only for his role in the Battle of the Little Bighorn, but for his lifelong commitment to the survival and dignity of his people. Standing firm in the belief that no nation has the right to take the land, freedom, or culture of another. Across museums, memorials, and reservations, his story is taught as a reminder that history is not only written by the powerful, but also shaped by those who stand their ground even when the odds are overwhelming. Sitting Bull's final message to his people was to remain strong, stay true to their identity, and never forget who they are. And in that sense, his legacy endures as powerfully today as it did during his lifetime. As we reflect on his story, we honor a leader who refused to bend under pressure, who guided his people through one of the most turbulent eras in American history, and whose spirit continues to stand unmoved, like the name he carried throughout his life. If you want to learn more about Native American history, culture, and the remarkable leaders who shaped the world we live in today, make sure to like and subscribe, because your support helps us keep these stories alive. And if there's anything else you'd like us to make a video about, whether it's another tribal leader, a historical event, or a cultural tradition, just let us know in the comments, and we'll bring it to life for you.